I've been telling stories in The Sims for decades, arguably the most creative game ever made, and yet I feel creatively empty. I have this yearning for creative fulfillment that I can't quite satisfy with The Sims anymore. And what if my love for this game has actually been holding me back from growing as a storyteller? In an interview with Lena Situations on the podcast Couch, the musician Rosalia talked about why her absolutely groundbreaking album Lux was delayed. She says, "When I finished the tour, I was seeing someone, and remember feeling inspired to write them letters. I even watched Sorrentino films and wrote analyses for that person. And then I remember thinking, wait, why am I doing all this for someone else? I should be working on my album, working on myself." Rosalia created for someone else, but it ended up being a distraction from creating for herself. In my case, The Sims has been my someone else, and perhaps a little bit the Sims community as well. It's maybe not the perfect analogy, but pouring all my creative energy into my Sims and breaking down my process for the community has certainly been a distraction from working on the book I've always wanted to write or the art I want to get better at. I'm not addicted to The Sims or anything like that. I actually wish I had the time to play an unhealthy amount of The Sims, but a lot of the free time and creative energy I do have goes into some form of playing The Sims. And don't get me wrong, I've thoroughly enjoyed sharing my perspective as a serious simmer and helping others play with purpose. But all that has kept my dream of writing a book at the back of my mind. I just didn't really have time for it, or so I thought. And the truth is, if I'm honest with myself, creative writing isn't easy, especially not an entire book. So instead, I've taken the easy route. The Sims makes it easy to visualize story, to play with story. It's kind of always been my shortcut to what I really want. But it's not really, is it? It's fun to let story unfold in the game or even play out some of the plots I come up with in advance, but it doesn't really replace writing a cohesive body of written work. It's not the same. And I admit I like to lean on the comfort of the analytical, which is probably why some of the videos I've made have been so popular. I really love dissecting what makes something work or how something can help us in The Sims, help us tell or, play better story, help us stay excited about the stories we're playing. I love dissecting the next move of my character based on their Enneagram personality. I like to get all into the, intricacies of archetype and use tarot cards to inspire what I'm doing. I love playing with story as it unfolds. I love discovering what can happen on a day-to-day basis to my Sims, and I love using those day-to-day events and creating as much as you can, cohesive story between it all. I do all that instead of putting in the work it takes to create an actual cohesive narrative from scratch. I talk a lot in my videos about leaving your comfort zone, and I think now it's time to leave mine. I also want to tell stories that are bigger than what I can do in The Sims. Even if I play with my imagination, there's only so far you can go. And I don't just want to quote-unquote play these stories in the game. I want to tell them without any limits, without any boundaries. I don't mind playing pretend, of course. It's something I've actually had a lot of fun doing in my gameplay, playing make-believe. I don't mind it whether it's in The Sims or for creative writing, but I do find myself making decisions in The Sims based on what the game will more likely allow, or also, what it triggers if you're playing the game and the story unfolds. And I do like letting my story develop organically with gameplay, but I do have this yearning to tell or play a story completely from me that has no boundaries, that can go anywhere. I want to leave my storytelling comfort zone, which, has been The Sims. It's been my way of getting my storytelling fix, basically, without the stakes, because I do think I'm a storyteller at heart. I just love telling or playing with story, and I think The Sims has been my easy way to do this. I love playing the game, and I don't think that will ever change, but I've also wondered why I don't come at, creative writing with the same passion I do for The Sims. I put a lot of thought in my Sim stories. It's not like I'm just winging it. I do put creative energy into all that. But then I think, why don't I do that for my own stories? And I think, The Sims has just been a low-stakes way for me to explore and play with story, to tell the endless stories of my mind. It's kind of been like storytelling on training wheels because it's not entirely up to me. The game helps prompt the story, and there's also no pressure for the story to make sense for anyone but me. And essentially, it really is just the day-to-day of my Sims, and I embellish it with some story with meaning that I interpret into what they're doing and how they're acting in the game. But there is essentially no structure to it. There is no need to actually write down and put any of what's happening to paper. It's not really pushing me as a creative writer. It also sometimes feels like all that work I put into my Sims' lives and their stories hinges on one really bad patch update. Like, it's really dependent on the game working, because all of a sudden then my save file and all the lore I've built in it, the connections I've built, the relationships with the different characters and the homes and the lots I've built, it just goes poof, right? a patch update can really make or break things, but on the other hand, a patch update can't ruin a written story. It's also a reason why I keep track of my Sims outside of the game, and when I'm trying to explain to someone why I created the Sim Guardian, which is my ultimate Notion tracker for keeping track of my Sims and their lives and their lore and my save files and everything. I talk about how much time and creative energy I put into my Sims and their stories, that I need a place to store all this lore. I don't want to forget the stories I've played or lose track. Of course, it's easier also to jump back in the game if I have that history, but I don't want to lose track of all the things I've achieved in the game and also what I still plan to do with my Sims. It has been my predominant creative outlet, I feel like, but I've been so hyper-fixated on this game for years that I've barely played other games or really pursued any other of my creative hobbies with earnest. I've realized that in the process of telling my Sims stories, I've neglected my dream to write my own. This year, I want to create more than I consume and find a better balance between play and productivity. And that means redirecting the bulk of my creativity into writing and other creative hobbies instead of maxing it out on The Sims. On that note, I want to advertise something I've been working on outside of Yellow Llama Co. I'm a multi-passionate creative, and one of the things I've wanted to do for years is to not only write a book, but also pursue a career in illustration, for which I created my brand Wundersart, which is actually German. It's Wunderzart, but I know most of y'all listening are English speaking, so let's pronounce it Wundersart. It means wonderfully delicate, translated, but it was a few years ago when I first built this, and I was still finding myself as an artist, as an illustrator, but then Yellow Llama Co. took off, and Wundersart was put on the back burner. This year, I want to dedicate time to Wundersart, I want to take it more seriously, and I want to work on my illustration this year. At the end of last year, I started building a Notion template, originally within the Yellow Llama Co. ecosystem, to help me explore more of my hobbies and help with choosing which of the gazillion of them to do next, and I of course wanted to share it with y'all, but it turned into something I could use to plan and manage my entire life and my creative work as well, so it kind of exploded, as these things usually do when I'm working on a Notion template. The Sim Guardian was a little thing, and then a couple months turned into 9, and look at the massive template we have now and all the things it can do. But yeah, now I want to pursue that art in earnest. And so instead of sharing the template within the Yellow Llama Co. ecosystem, I think it's more fitting to share it under my Wundersart brand. And this template has evolved quite a bit as I've been building it. It's now far more than a tool to help me overcome decision fatigue. It's actually now designed to help me balance play and productivity overall, and that's literally. So I earn action points that create a harmony score so that I can recognize when I'm consuming or creating too much. This helps me find more time for my creative hobbies while still avoiding creative burnout, because you kind of need a balance there, right? Getting organized in Notion is what helps me stick to my save files, as you may know. The Sim Guardian has been absolutely phenomenal in that, so I thought, why not use Notion to help me stick to being creative and building a creative practice as well. I've also set it up to help me manage my small business, which is even more relevant now that I'm technically running 2 of them. So we've got Yellow Llama Co. and we've got Wundersart. I can't wait to share the template with you, although it isn't quite available yet. It will be though soon. I already have a name for it though, the Creative Compass. If you want to follow along on my creative journey and want to know once the template's ready, then sign up to my Wundersart newsletter, which I'll leave linked in the description below. And now you might be asking, okay, cool, but what does this mean for Yellow Llama Co? No worries, it won't find the same fate as Wundersart did a few years ago. I'm not neglecting any of my creative work anymore. I want this channel to continue to be about my obsession for story, just now it will be more than about stories I play in The Sims and less about how to play with purpose in The Sims specifically. I want to start talking about storytelling beyond The Sims and pursue my creative writing in earnest. And I'm going to take you along on the journey. I don't know if this means I'll be writing a book, if that'll truly be the end goal. I don't know if that's really what I want or if I've just romanticized the idea, but I want to finally give creative writing a serious go and find out. At this point, with the amount of theory I've read on writing, the amount of writing books I've read, I do know a bit about how to write story, and so maybe this book should be just based on, how do you say that? There's that lost cost fallacy or something like that, where you invest a lot of energy into one thing and you think, okay, well, we need to see this to the end. And you also seem to think that a book from me could be fun, so I'm excited to give it a go. But whatever and whichever way I create story, I want to feel like I have full ownership over it, and I want to tell a story beyond what has been, possible in The Sims thus far. I also want the stories I tell to reach people beyond the Sims community. Machinima, for example, feels like a long-lost art, and it's always been something I've been curious to create myself. Well, I have created a piece here or there already, but I see so many great works out there, but barely any piece reaches an audience outside the Sims community. It seems like no matter how good the storytelling is, it's doomed to be perceived as Sims first and story second. And especially after the EA buyout, I don't really want my creative work to be attached to an IP and its reputation that I have literally no control over. I want the art that I make, the stories I tell, to shine on their own and in their own right. And naturally, an audience isn't a requirement for me to create. I just feel this urge, with or without anyone seeing my work. But I think there's still something very human about wanting to connect with others through the stories you experience or want to tell. And I'm not quitting The Sims completely, don't get me wrong. I'll still play it. It's still very much a creative outlet for me. I'll still invest time in my Sims and their stories. I won't, just wing it. Investing that time and energy is really what makes the game fun for me. So it's not going to be something I want to stop doing. I just don't want it to take up all my creative energy, and I don't know how much of my gameplay I'll be sharing moving forward. If you're a Simmer, I think it's still worth sticking around. Even though what I share might not be Sims related anymore or Sims, specific, what I've got planned will still be relevant if you're a storyteller at heart, and I'm sure what I share can still be inspiring for your Sims gameplay in some way or another. But if you're here just for the Sims stuff, that's a-okay. I've got a ton of Sims related videos already on the channel and a podcast for you to listen to if you haven't gotten around to any of that content, and I'll also continue creating more deep dives of my Sim Guardian. So thinking back to my question if The Sims has been holding me back, I think in part yes. But it's not The Sims' fault, it's been my fault. I just need to redirect my creative focus. I think it's okay to, want to take the easy route when it comes to telling story, but I think it shouldn't be at the cost of me also putting in the work for the actual, long form story I want to tell. And I think play is very important. I just need to find a balance and dedicate more time and energy on the things that will make me feel truly creatively fulfilled. I spent a lot of time thinking about where I want to go with Yalamiko and this channel, and I'm so excited for what I have planned moving forward, for the direction I'm going to go into, and I really hope you stick along. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I've already got a bunch of ideas on how I want to explore story beyond The Sims, but let me know in the comments below in what ways you explore story beyond The Sims. I'd be really curious, and let me know. Do I have any other writers in the community like me that maybe have a creative writing project on the side that they've been working on or maybe, already published? Let me know in the comments below.